Good evening, viewers in Massachusetts and viewers around the social media. My name is Ronald Bernard, and I am an expert in development. I am here at MCTV for the third series of Dialogue with the Candidate. Dialogue with the Candidate, it's a platform that MCTV created to have the candidate to come and they can share who they are and their political agenda and what they would like to accomplish, and in return to improve people's life. So this evening, I am very glad and great because we have with us Mr. Robert Sullivan. Good evening, Mr. Robert.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So Mr. Robert Sullivan is running for mayor in Brockton. And as we have already had other candidates come and, talk and introduce themselves. So now, Mr. Sullivan, how about you introduce yourself to the audience of MCTV who are listening to you now?
Sure. Thank you, Ronald. So my name is Robert Sullivan. Born and raised in the city of Brockton. My wife is from Brockton. We're raising our three wonderful children in Brockton, and they attend Brockton Public Schools and Trinity Catholic Academy in the city. I went to Brockton High School. I then went on to Boston College to get my undergrad degree. Then I went to law school to the New England School of Law in Boston and got my law degree. And then I went back to Boston College to get my MBA degree. I ran in 2005 for city council, and at that time I ran for council at large, serving the whole city, which is 7 wards and 28 precincts. And to be honest with you, people said, don't waste your time, you can't win, nobody knows you. We did it the old-fashioned way. It was me and my dad, and we just knocked on doors, and we won citywide. And since that time, I've been reelected every 2 years. I've topped the ticket, meaning I've gotten the most votes the last 10 years. So I've been on it 14 years. I am the city council president. I've been elected by my peers. This is the 4th time that I've been the council president. And I just love Brockton. I mean, it's home, and it always has been, it always will be. And now with the untimely and sad passing of Mayor Bill Carpenter, I'm running. I'm a candidate for mayor. We have an election coming up. As you know, it's a nonpartisan. Okay. Democrat, Republican, unenrolled independents can vote. And it's a preliminary on September 17th. They'll take the top 2 people that would then be fortunate enough to go into the November election. Okay.
Thank you, Robert, for the introduction. And as you just mentioned, based on all the experience you have as the city council, and now why you decide to go for mayor? Why?
So I've been asked probably for the last 5 elections to consider running for mayor. By many people, and it's a wonderful honor to be asked. But with a young family, it just wasn't the right time. I believe now we're really at a paramount in the city of Brockton. And you need to elect a mayor, which in essence is the CEO of a business. Brockton's budget this year was over $440 million. So when you elect a mayor to serve you at City Hall, you really are electing a CEO to run a business. Which again, it's the school department, it's the police, it's fire, it's public safety, and DPW. But I decided now is the right time because we're on a path right now. We have really wonderful investment in the city of Brockton, hundreds of millions of dollars downtown that Mayor Carpenter was working with the city council to develop. Outside developers are coming into Brockton. We have internal developers. We need to keep that train going down the track. We need to make sure the development in the core of the city is working, but also expand throughout the city of Brockton, all around. And I just believe that, my leadership and my skill sets and my experience and my education, I've done 14 city budgets. I've worked with 4 different mayors. The current mayor is Mayor Rodriguez. I just thought now was the time, and we're running a very positive campaign. It's overwhelming, the support. And everybody that runs should be applauded. It's a daunting task, it really is. And at the end of the day, we just hope that the Brockton voters go out on September 17th. And, I feel that I'm the best candidate at this time to make sure business is to make sure that everybody in the city of Brockton feels that they have a voice. It's inclusive for everybody. Mm-hmm. And I learned that years ago when my mom and dad, and they're still in Brockton, and my in-laws are still in Brockton. You work hard, you do the right thing, and you feel good about making a difference.
Okay, thank you. And the confidence, I can see the confidence, the way you talk, the way you explain,
thank you.
About your desire to serve and help Brockton. So currently, for instance, if you're elected as the mayor of Brockton and in, let's say, 100 days while you're elected, like, can you share with us like your top two priority for the city?
The first thing I would do, I was asked this the other day at a candidates forum, what would you do if you were elected mayor? The first thing I would do would invite the whole community. I'd call it a community engagement meeting where we have all sectors, young, old, diversity, everybody at the table, because either you're a business owner in Brockton or you're a resident, and you have a vested interest. And I just want to hear different voices and different opinions and ideas. Is a sharing of ideas. One thing that I've learned, maybe it's going to law school, you have to be a good listener. And you also have to learn your skills and your experience. I don't have. You share your ideas, I share my ideas. And you're not going to make everybody happy. I understand that. But if you work hard, and you're saying the first 100 days, I concur that you need to really hit the ground running. And again, with my experience, I believe I'm going to do that. There's no lag time. You can't. But I think you need to look at education. I'm a product of the Brockton Public Schools, graduated from Brockton High in 1988, a long time ago.
Okay.
But it's a different day now. When you're having kids in a classroom with 35, 38 kids, it's not good for the students and it's not good for the teachers. So Brockton needs to get its fair share of Chapter 70 funds, Chapter 90 funds, making sure the lottery fund reimbursement is coming back properly with Brockton. And we're not getting that right now. So I think we need to look at having a clean city, a safe city. Need to look at overtime, some cost containment measures where we can maybe take some money and get some more police on the streets and get some more fire and get some more teachers. I think there's a lot of things that need to be done, but the only way that it can be achieved is if we work collectively, we're all in it together. If I'm fortunate enough, I would just be at the top as the mayor, but it's everybody with a vision. Like, we can do better in Brockton, and some people say, oh, you're not a realist. Well, if you don't try, you're never going to achieve that goal. And the goal is to make sure that Brockton is the best community. If you're paying your taxes and you're enjoying the community, it can be better. Perception's reality. So when you drive into the city and you see litter on the streets or potholes, we could do better than that. It's quality of life issues. So, what I would do is day one, I would invite everybody in the community, let's get together and let's just share ideas, because again, some of the senior citizens and veterans that I've helped in the past, we thank them. We wouldn't be doing anything without them. They have ideas different than a teacher that's at the Hancock School in Brockton or Trinity Catholic. So it's not really date specific, like what we do in the first 30 days, 50 days, 100 days. It's what are you going to do collectively in total? And again, I'm asking people, I've been knocking doors every day. I just love to serve. I volunteer. I coach. I'm not a great coach, but I coach baseball, basketball, and soccer in Brockton. I've done it for years. And it's about giving back. That's what my mom and dad taught me, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. Okay.
Thank you. And for everybody who's listening, it's you are at the MCTV Multicultural Television Network. We are with Mr. Robert today, who is running for office as a mayor in Brockton. And we have this dialogue, as we mentioned. It's to inform the public. They can know who's running for office, their agenda. They can know what their plans are for the community or the city they plan to serve. So, Robert, as we've been talking, so many people running for the same position as mayor of Brockton. So what makes you kind of outstanding or different than the other candidate in terms of either your policy, the thing that what makes you unique?
So I think if you look at, I've served 14 years as a citywide elected official, and it's not how long you've served, it's what have you done, what have you accomplished, right? Show us what you've done. And I'll just tell you a couple things. I used to be the town attorney in the town of Randolph for 5 years, and I learned at that time that the street lights throughout Massachusetts, so in the city of Brockton, we were paying rent every month to National Grid. But you can buy the lights from National Grid for a cost savings. I went to Mayor Belzotti at the time and mentioned it, and we spent $42,000 to buy the street lights. Guess what we saved? $650,000 year one, over $500,000 in year. These are annual savings. So it's again, I brought it forward, but all the colleagues on the city council, we collectively worked together, and then the mayor supported it. So I think, it's experience, but it's accomplishment. I mentioned the seniors and veterans. I drafted an ordinance, a law where veterans and seniors that own real estate can volunteer time in the city of Brockton, at the library, the schools, wherever, and then they'll get a price reduction on their real estate tax.
Wow.
It makes a big difference. Chapter 40R, which is called Smart Growth Zoning. So before I ran for city council, I served 2 years on the city planning board. And I was speaking to the planner at the time, and I said, what can we do in Brockton to make a catalyst for development? Like, what is it? What mechanism can we use? 40R, Massachusetts general law, allows a municipality, city or town to be adopted. So when I got elected to the city council, I brought it up, and we adopted it. And since that time, there's 5 areas in the downtown where we adopted 40R. So we had a $30 million investment with Trinity Financial. Vincente's, which is a wonderful supermarket, did a natural expansion, multi-million-dollar expansion. And now we're seeing a lot more development in the core, and we're adding on that. So I applaud people that run for office. It is a challenge, and it's a sacrifice, especially if you have young kids. But you do it for a purpose and a reason, and I'm just asking people to look at me. My website is www.electrobertsullivan.com. Please look it over, vet it out, offer criticisms, suggestions, ideas, because at the end of the day, I want to serve everybody in Brockton, not one ward, not one precinct, the entire city of Brockton. So I think experience matters, and I think, proven experience. My slogan is leadership for Brockton's future, and it means something to me personally and to my family. We're looking at Brockton's future, not for the present, but for our kids. How can we make the community, the City of Champions, a better place to live and work? And I think you need to elect the right people at this time.
Yeah, definitely. We need the right people in the right place, because this is what kind of makes, things moving.
That's right.
So I remember you mentioned throughout the conversation that, unfortunately, Bill, passed away, and he has been doing, great thing in Brockton in order to help the city. So are you planning to continue his vision?
I am. I think, again, what Mayor Carpenter was doing, and the current mayor, Mayor Rodriguez, is following that as well, is if we don't continue in a positive manner, we're going to take 10 steps back. So if I am fortunate enough, with my experience and with the footprint that's been laid out, we need to continue that, right? Because if we increase our tax base, it's better for everybody in Brockton. But I also want to make sure that businesses that are in Brockton, first of all, feel like they should stay in Brockton. Okay. We need to extend a welcome hand to them. And that's all businesses. It's the small businesses, it's the big businesses, and it's also to bring business in. There's a thing called a TIF, tax incremental financing. We've done that to bring different businesses, Crown Linen, Keneally Foods, a couple auto dealerships to Brockton. And I think what we need to do collectively is the mayor, the city council, the school committee, we all need to get together and brainstorm and figure out, okay, who feels that they're not being served properly? And I'll tell you, code enforcement, in my humble opinion, needs to be enhanced. It's not being addressed properly, and it needs to be across the board. Again, it's quality of life. People expect a good community. So I just think that, what Mayor Carpenter was doing, and Mayor Balzotti, and Mayor Harrington, and now Mayor Rodriguez, we need to continue that focus. But I think also, whoever gets in as the next mayor needs to make sure that you learn from the fire chief, the police chief, the DPW commissioner, but more importantly, the people that live throughout the city of Brockton. I go to the Tri-Parish, Our Lady of Lourdes, and I hear every Sunday at Mass, people come up to me and say, "Counselor, I have this issue." And the biggest thing that I take satisfaction is, on Monday, you address the issue. You can't fix it overnight, but you can work. That's why you run. It's called public service.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Robert.
Thank you.
And for all the viewer, it's the dialogue, and this dialogue is to inform you, and as much information you could have from people who's running for office, you can make your informed decision when you go to vote. So as we're going to be at the end of this dialogue we just had, how would you make your case? What is your last word? This is what I'm trying to tell. What is your last word for people who are listening to you in Brockton and people all over the social media, so you can lay out your,
No, thank you. First of all, I want to thank you for having me on. This
You're
has been a
welcome.
great dialogue, great conversation.
Thank you.
Learning experience, and you're very good at your job, so thank you. I've won races and I've lost races. I ran one time for state representative. I lost by 13 votes. So when they say every vote counts, every vote matters, 100% I agree with that. And I also think that now it's summer month, it's August, and people really aren't thinking about September, right? Once the kids get back to school and vacations end, that's like the last crunch before you get to the preliminary. What I'm going to ask people in Brockton, people that are registered voters, please consider me, but look at what has Robert Sullivan done as a city councilor at large serving the whole city, number one. Number two, I'm from Brockton, my wife's from Brockton, and we care about Brockton. When we graduated from college, we didn't move out, and a lot of my friends did. It's home. And again, I take great pride and satisfaction in being an elected official. It means a lot. So when I ask you for your vote and I ask for your consideration for vote, again, I'm just encouraging everybody. September 17th is a very important date in Brockton because it really is going to determine who goes into November and then ultimately who is going to serve as mayor and who is going to serve as a city councilor and who is going to serve as a school committee member. So if people could consider me, look at my track record, and again, remember that I believe experience and leadership matters when you're talking about the role of a mayor in the city of Brockton. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you for everyone who are listening. It's the third series, and we have with us Mr. Robert Sullivan, who's running for mayor in Brockton. So, good evening, everyone, and thank you for listening. Good evening, viewers in Massachusetts and viewers around the social media. My name is Ronald Bernard, and I'm an expert in development. I am here in the MCTV for the dialogue with the candidate. This is a series where we have candidates come to talk about their agenda, to talk about who they are and why they're running for office. So this is the fourth series, and we are fortunate to have with us this evening Mr. Jean Bradley Derenoncourt. Good evening, Bradley.
Good evening. It is truly a privilege to be at MCTV. As always, I believe since 2017 I've been a part of that show whenever we do have an opportunity. So tonight it's wonderful to know that I can be live in the studio and talking about our mayor's race. So for those of you who do not know me, my name is Jean Bradley Derenoncourt. As we speak, Brockton City Council at large, candidate for mayor. Here we are at MCTV, ready to take some questions from you, regardless where they are coming from.
Okay. Thank you, Bradley, and we are very glad you come and you accept our invitation. So, Bradley, we know that right now you are the council at large, as you mentioned, and why you decide now, is it the right time to go for mayor?
I mean, I think this is a wonderful question in regard to why now. The question should be, if not now, then when?
Okay.
And obviously, I think you probably know some of the stuff that I've been doing as a councillor at large, but I think that giving, the platform that we have, especially as somebody who's been living in Brockton for about 9 years now, I think that I have a solemn obligation not just to live in the city, but also to take responsibility. Let me explain to you what I mean. 8 years ago, I was fortunate enough to have an opportunity to come to the United States by virtue of my parents. And fortunately, I was able to land in Brockton, Massachusetts, where my father and sisters and mom have been living for so long now. So when I needed a new place to be, when I needed a home, the city of Brockton opened itself for me. And because of that, like I always say, that I will never and ever forget this opportunity. But I also think that I have a responsibility to do whatever I could possibly do to give back to the city of Brockton. And that's one of the reasons, I've been saying day one that I will do anything that I could possibly do to give the same opportunity that I received 8 years ago to somebody else, whether they were born in the city of Brockton or they are coming from somewhere else. Because I think that the city of Brockton is a city of champions. And what I mean by champions is that we have so many people who are doing wonderful work. I am grateful for that. And I think with that being said, when we get to education, public safety, youth empowerment, seniors, homelessness, small business, and the revitalization of downtown Brockton, I should be part of that. And that's one of the reasons why my team and myself come up with the best platform as we speak to represent the city of Brockton. And that's one of the reasons we said we gotta be able to come up with a platform that will not only embrace everyone, but give them a sense of understanding, but also opportunities and hope, then with the actions and change that place forever. Because the city of Brockton, as you probably know, has been desperate, especially the downtown. So as a young person myself, I'm 29 years old, living in the city, I couldn't possibly sit on the lines and let the city of Brockton, vanish away. So that's one of the reasons I said to my team that, let's get together and come up with the best platform to represent everybody. And that's what we've been doing. And that's why we believe now is the moment for the city of Brockton to do better and greater than ever before. And under my administration, you will see something that you have never seen before.
Okay. Thank you, Bradley. And it's very, I very admired, the way you talk about the issue, like, what people in Brockton facing and your plan and your platform. So under Bradley leadership, 100 days, how is it going to look like?
A good question. I mean, 100, day one, not even 100. Day one, we already know exactly what we're going to do. And that's one of the reasons, I don't know if you've been following our campaign, we've been sitting down with a variety of people within the city, among them the Brockton Police Department chief, the fire department chief, the superintendent schools, and pretty soon, I'm assuming we're going to meet, according to my team, I believe that they have a couple of the head departments under the radar, so we want to sit down and talk to them. Why do we believe in doing something like that? So in order for you to truly understand the complexity of what's going on within the Brockton Police Department, you got to sit down and talk to them, because believe it or not, they know it better than anybody else because that's their job. They've been doing it for so long. The Brockton Police Chief has been in that force for more than 33 years, so before I was even born. So with that being said, I think it is wise to sit down with someone like him to understand what's going on within his department and find out the necessities and how best we as the government can help them out. This year we put $28 million into the police department. We put $26 million into the fire department. We put $46 million into the school system. And I believe as a whole, in combination with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we put $229 million into the school system. So with that being said, it's important to sit down and talk to these people to understand their jobs, then you take actions, because you don't want to wait until you become the mayor to find out what's going on within the Brockton Police Department, what's going on within the fire department. I think as we speak, especially as somebody who's running for that job, should be able to sit down and talk to them. So that's one of the reasons we said day one, we will do whatever we could possibly do to talk to as many people as we can, to sit down with as many people as we can, to come up with the best platform that can represent everybody, because our view is more inclusive rather than exclusive. And with that being said, I think day one within the Derenoncourt administration, you will see a Brockton that is diverse. You will see an administration that reflects the entire population, and you will see a government that welcomes the city of Brockton. And City Hall, you can bet on that, will never be the same, because City Hall is the people's house. And under my administration, I will do whatever I could possibly do to bring that spirit to life. Because you know why? The money we are spending are the taxpayers' money. The roads must be included in regard to spending that money. So if you are living in the city of Brockton as we speak, I would like you to know that I am here for you, not against you, and I will do anything that I could possibly do to represent you accordingly. And not even going there. I mean, as we speak, I'm been serving you as a councillor at large. My records are there, and you see how I vote, because I know that I was sent to City Hall to represent you. No special interests, no backdoor politics, So that's what I've been doing day one. And under a JBD administration, Joadli Derenoncourt administration, you can expect the same. But understand, being a city councilor and being the mayor is two different things. As a city council, my job is to make laws, amend laws. They call them ordinance. But as the mayor, I will be able to work the day-to-day activities within the city in regards to what's going on. So with that being said, it is more complex, but I think that we have the ability, the capacity, and the willingness to do the job accordingly. And Joadli Derenoncourt does have the time to do it. So with that being said, I mean, we don't even have to wait for 100 days. I mean, day one, we will come up with a team that will reflect the entire city, and that's what you can expect, and that's what we will do. And that's one of the reasons we say believe in Brockton. So many people do not believe in the city because they feel like, Brockton is not safe, the educational system is not as great as some people believe it. Don't take it from me. Take it from the superintendent, take it from the teachers, because some of the teachers are saying that sometimes they themselves have to go to Walmart to buy school accessories so their students can have, materials to do their works. And obviously we have 32 and 33 and 29 students in one class. So that being said, it's very tough to bring all of them out with the same level of education. So as we speak, Joadli Derenoncourt understands these issues, and we don't have to wait until after we become mayor to actually take some time to think about them. So day one, you will see an administration that will reflect the people. You will see an administration that assume responsibility, and you will see an administration that is ready and determined to turn Brockton into the best city, if I'm not mistaken, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Okay. Thank you, Bradley. I want to remind of the viewers you're watching MCTV, which is Multicultural Television Network, and this is the fourth series where we have what we call Dialogue with the Candidate. And one more time, Dialogue with the Candidate, it's an opportunity we give to everyone who's running for office. They can come and share their agenda, who they are, in a way that can help the public when they go to do their civic duty at the poll. So, Bradley, all the enthusiasm, and they are very, welcome, and I really admire them.
Thank you.
And you are among like six other people running.
7 in total.
It's 7 in total. So it's a question I ask all the candidates. So what makes yourself different than the other? Either in terms of policy or in terms of strategy. So if you can share with the public like one thing.
Well, I mean, this is a wonderful question, and I gotta thank you for actually taking the time to ask me what makes me different among all of them. And obviously, it is obvious.
Okay.
It is obvious. Let me tell you exactly what makes me different. Obviously, when it's come down to government, you gotta be able to have the willingness and the determination to work with everyone. With that being said, for those of you that know me well, Joadli Derenoncourt is somebody that can work with anybody, and that's important in government. My willingness, my determination, my commitment, and my ability, I should say, to speak multiple languages will be very useful in regard to shaping the administration. But one of the most important things that makes me unique is my ability to approach people and communicate. No matter what you do in life, communication is important. And people who know me well, they will tell you that sometimes, I do take the time to do the research and reach out. And I think in a city like the city of Brockton, you need somebody who is able to forget about themselves and reach out to the little people out there, the most desperate one, to understand where they are coming from. Then you take actions. I remember when I was in college, I had an assignment to go to Washington, D.C. to sleep on the streets with the homeless people, solely to be able to empathize. Wow. And with that being said, I'm not only doing this in Washington, D.C. I do take some time to walk downtown Brockton, to talk to the homeless populations, to understand what they are going through and how best we can help them out. And I think one of the things that makes me unique about this race is the fact that I am the only person in this race that can uniquely saying that I cannot be bought by anybody. and I do have backbones. And when I say something, I mean it. And nobody can actually claim that they are doing any backdoor deal with me. And obviously, people have been saying all kind of stuff. Matter of fact, on my way to your show, I got a call from a resident, one of my supporters. She went to City Hall this morning, and somebody told her that I've been to prisons for so long, and the lady couldn't mention where and when. Obviously, I've never been arrested before. I've never been in jail. Forget about prison. So with that being said, you got people out there who are saying stuff solely to capitalize on unfortunate people. So the paramount goal of that person was to somewhat shift it, my supporter towards somebody else. But fortunately, my supporter was able to reach out to me to clarify that. So with that being said, I think that Derenoncourt does understand the complexity of the diversity that we have in the city of Brockton and is willing to appreciate the culture, then take action for everyone. Here's one of the things that I've been saying. I don't care where you live in the city of Brockton. As long as you are a resident, whether you live on the west side, the east side, the north side, the south side, Jean-Baptiste Derenoncourt will be your mayor. And I will be your employee. I work for you. I work for the people. So you are my boss, nobody else. And with that being said, I have been proving it as a councillor at large. I mean, you've seen my vote. I mean, when I have to be on my own, I stand on my own. When I have to join a group of people, I join a group of people. But when it's come down to defend the people, I will do anything that I could possibly do to making sure that our tax dollars will be spent accordingly. And here's one of the things that I said under my administration for the first 2 years. I will not raise property tax because I will be able to bring small business downtown. Hopefully, they will be able to pay taxes. Then we can give our wonderful resident a tax break. And also, I will turn Main Street into 2 ways. Some of the people that you've seen in the race, some of them have been put in the race to create some disturbance. Some of them have been put in the race to shift vote. But fortunately, we have a very smart city when it's come down to politics. And you will see something in the city this year that you've never seen before in regard to the amount of people that Jean-Baptiste Derenoncourt will pull out. And when that result comes out, people will be shocked because you know why? We are very open in regard to what we are doing. We are very transparent about everything, and we cannot be bought. And Jean-Baptiste Derenoncourt is one of the most progressive, one of the most boldest candidate that you have in this race. Because this election, Ronald, is not about me. It's about the people. This election is not about one person. It's about all of us. And as we speak, the city of Brockton is at a crossroad where the outcome of this race will determine what's going to happen in the next 2 years, what's going to happen in the next 4 years, and what's going to happen in the next 10 years. But here's one thing that you can bet. Under my administration, you will have the best educational system in the city. I will fight with the state. I will fight with whomever that I have to fight to making sure that our city receives the fair share of everything. When it's come down to public safety, I will build a collaboration with the police department to understand the culture. Although, you know, they have been doing a wonderful job with the little that they have, but under my administration, I will give them more resources, more tools that they are desperately need so they can do their job accordingly. But here's one thing. You cannot talk about a great city. You cannot talk about a wonderful community without talking about education and public safety. And with that being said, I think when it's come down to the perception about crimes in the city of Brockton, you didn't ask me that question, I'm giving it to you for free. People gotta be able to understand that you cannot talk about public safety without talking about education. Because some of the issues that we have, they are not only on the street, they're actually in the house. And one of the things that I've been able to observe, according to the research that my team has been doing, is that the age bracket where people are committing a lot of problems, it's from 11 years old to 25 years old or 26 years old. So under my administration, what I will do, I will work in collaboration with the Brockton Police Department, with the school system, and with the community, not just parents, with the entire community, to form a task force where you can have everybody involved and we talk about the issues and how we can work together to benefit the outcome of all of us. Because it doesn't matter where the issue is, as long as it is somewhere in Brockton, it affects everyone that lives in the city. And that's one of the reasons I am more than determined to reach out to anyone that I could possibly do to bring the best of the best in the city of Brockton. That's what I will do as the next mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Bradley. And I have another question for you because it's the time, you can share with the public, the audience, about, your vision and your plan. So,
you said you have another question after that,
yeah.
and I'll be able to.
Well, another question I have.
Bring
So
it on board.
the other question is that
Yes.
you mentioned a bunch of issues within the community in Brockton. Yeah, if I really understand, you talk about education, you talk about public safety, you talk about
Youth empowerment,
Yes.
seniors, homelessness, small business, and a sense of isolation within downtown Brockton. As we speak, the place is dead. Downtown
Okay.
Brockton.
So what gonna be your approach? Because what I found with my conversation with other previous candidate and other people need results. So I assume that action that produce result. So for instance, if you take education, I remember you mentioned about it. Is there a strategy you have in place to produce result?
I do. Yeah,
Okay.
Of course. I mean, one of the best way to that's what I just stated earlier. I mean, I had a meeting with interim superintendent Michael Thompson earlier, and we spoke about a lot of things. He's a very, very, very smart man, well respected, and he's been serving the Brockton school system for 27 years. So what we talk about is the necessity of having enough funding and also the best teachers that can actually teach. Because what happened is that, we also spoke about after-school programs. The thing is that without money, we cannot do pretty much anything. But with money, I don't want to say anything is possible, but most of the things that we are talking about is possible. One of the things that we have to do is to create the best educational system which will help with public safety. Then other people, especially investors, will have the courage to come to our city to invest. Because when anybody is moving to a community, especially parents, there are two things they take in consideration. The number one thing is the place I'm moving to or moving in has a wonderful educational system. If it's true, check. If it's not, that's already a red flag. Number two, is the place is safe for me and my children to stay in? If it's safe, check. If it's not safe, they go somewhere else. Under my administration, I would like everybody to know that the place will have the city of Brockton, the city of champions, the city that opens the door for me 8 years ago, will have the best educational system in the entire Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And with that being said, we will have an excellent public safety. Because when it's come down to public safety, Ronald, it's not just about the law enforcement. I mean, parents, students, community leaders, activists should be able to work in collaboration together to solve these problems. And I strongly believe that without having the willingness and the commitment to challenge a system that we have here, which I believe has failed this year, this place will never change. But you need bold, progressive leadership to move it on. So what we will do, we will reach out to, different groups, especially the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. What you got to understand about Derenoncourt is that I work with most of these people, from the House to the Senate. So I'm not some guy that will be trained in terms of like how to reach out to, the Speaker of the House, the Senate President. These are people that I know. And it's important in politics to know who these people are and how to reach out to them. So with that being said, I think that we do have a very strong, solid foundation that the city of Brockton will be able to stand on. And then we'll take actions. Not only that, too. Our schools, the buildings, they are in very desperate conditions. Some of them are falling apart, believe it or not. Brockton High School has been alive way before I was born, 50 years ago. So you will hear a lot of people saying that, you know, Brockton High School, the new Brockton High School. But some people actually get mad because they don't want you to call it the new Brockton High School because it's old. It's been there for 50 years. So with that being said, we gotta be able to have enough revenue and hopefully, you know, take some actions and then invest into our students, give them a reason to believe in something, helping them to understand that they themselves have a responsibility in their life, and then together you move on. But what we need revenue, we need safety, we need to change the perception, and with bold, progressive leadership. Without these things, without having a backbone, you will never be able to change anything. And I mean this. Under my administration, you will see drastic change because Derenoncourt is not, how do I put this? Is not in the process of being bossing by anyone. My boss will be the people of Brockton, the residents. These are the people that will tell me what to do and when to do it. But at the same time, I'm hoping they will trust me enough sometimes to make some decision on my own in regard to what I think is best for the city. But when it's come down to my ability to work with the city council, as we speak, I am still a city councilor at large. And they will tell you how I work within the city hall and among all of them. So I'll leave it like that.
Okay, thank you, and congratulations because you know it's like 2 years since you've been a city.
About that.
About that.
Yeah.
Okay, and for all the viewers, we are about at the end of the dialogue with the candidate, and we have with us Mr. Bradley Derenoncourt. And Bradley, what is the last word you would like to share to tell people in Brockton who are listening to you now?
Thank you, Ronald. I would like to thank also MCTV for giving me this platform to talk a little bit about our political journey, and we got to why we want to be the next mayor of Brockton, and why we think that we are the person that they should select it. Given the fact that you give me the opportunity, I'm going to look at your audience straight, in the camera and tell them my case. For those of you who probably just turned into this show, my name is Derenoncourt, as we speak, Brockton City Councilor at large and candidate for mayor. It is truly an honor to be at your presence and also having you taking the time to listen to me. 8 years ago, I was in Haiti after facing one of the most devastating earthquakes in Haiti. 8 years later, here I am, here with Ronald and also in the studio of MCTV, talking about becoming the next mayor of Brockton. The question you've got to ask, how did this possible? Well, it is easy for me to answer it because of you. Because 8 years ago, you gave me an opportunity to come here, believe it or not. And by virtue of that opportunity and the blessing you put upon me, I take advantage of it. Because I strongly believe that together we can do a lot. With that being said, day one, I've been showing my willingness and my commitment to serve you, the community of Brockton. And for that reasons, have been open myself to all kind of scrutiny because I strongly believe in you. And as we speak, I am open myself again one more time to represent you as your next mayor. Because I strongly believe that we have to invest more into our educational system. We got to do better with our public safety within the city and invest in our seniors and of course take care of our homeless people and helping the young folks so they can make something out of themselves. And if you live in the city of Brockton, downtown has been a mess for so long. And with that being said, I think that you need an outsider to change that. And I think I am your guy. I am your guy because I believe in you. I am your guy because I trust you. And I am your guy because I know that I will work for you. So all I'm asking you, as we are getting closer to these elections, which will be September 17th, all I'm asking you, my friends and families, please believe in Brockton, not me. Because if you believe in Brockton, you will see something positive. And together, join me on this journey and let's believe in Brockton. Because I strongly believe that this election is not about me and it's not about a small group of people. It is about the future of Brockton. And I think that we are at a crossroad where we must stand and we must stand strong. And together, that's the only way we can build our foundations. And as we speak, it's been tough since day one we announced this campaign. But with your blessing and your word of encouragement and the passion that I know that you have and also that I have, I believe that nothing will stop us. For that reason, may God bless you taking the time to listen to this. May God bless the city of Brockton. And together, let's make history September 17th and build that foundation November 5th by voting for Jean-Bradley Derenoncourt, the next mayor of Brockton. But as we speak, the only vote that I'm looking for at this moment is the September 17th one. I open my heart to you. I open my soul to you. And I'm looking at you in your eyes, looking at me back, and you will see exactly where I'm coming from. Together, let's believe on this journey, and let's give every single child in the city of Brockton an opportunity that they will carry on forever. So please, don't forget to go out and vote for Jean-Bradley Derenoncourt, or the guy with the longest name on the ballot, September 17th. Have a good one.
Thank you all the viewers of MCTV. This is the 4th series of Dialogue with the Candidate. My name is Ronald, and I am a specialist in development, and I am honored to host this Dialogue with the Candidate. Thank you, Bradley, for coming.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. So tonight, I have the privilege to have with me Mr. Mark Lawton. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening.
Mark Lawton is running for mayor in Brockton. And we are fortunate to have him, and we thank you for taking your time to
Thank you.
talk with us. So, Mark, I believe that, many people who are watching now, they would like to know, who is Mark and what is your plan? So how about you tell, the audience about
Let me
who is Mark?
tell you in a couple of minutes who I am.
Oh.
I was born in Brockton to Jim and Jean Lawton. They came from the east side of the city. If you're from Brockton, you know about the east side, west side, Campello, Montello. But I was born to parents who came from the east side, Summer Street, Galen Street. We lived on 25 Carey Street. I was actually born on Turner Street.
Okay.
Moved back to the east side where my parents came from. My parents had 5 boys. I'm the oldest of the 5. My father ran for the city council, was the youngest member ever elected to the Brockton City Council until Jack Lally was elected 4 years ago. My father then ran for a seat in the House of Representatives and served for 10 years. He ran for Attorney General in '62, the same year that a young Ted Kennedy ran for the U.S. Senate.
Okay.
They were nominated out in the Springfield Democratic Convention. My father was then appointed to a judgeship in 1964. I attended Brockton Public Schools. I married a Brockton woman, Patricia O'Leary, the daughter of a Brockton police patrolman, Joseph Francis Snub O'Leary. I ran for a seat in the House of Representatives, served Brockton for 10 years, 5 terms in the House of Representatives. The Governor Edward King, appointed me to the Massachusetts Trial Court. I was the youngest member ever appointed to the Massachusetts Trial Court. Mary Baker, Stevie Bernard, Reverend Mike Walker, and others, and I founded the Brockton Boys and Girls Club. We had our first meeting at the Messiah Baptist Church on Legion Parkway. It was the first meeting we had that resulted in the opening of the doors of the Boys and Girls Club in December of 1990. I sat mostly in Boston, but sometimes in Brockton. As a result of sitting in Brockton, and I used to work out at the Y every night, I'd wind up taking showers with people I was holding on bail.
Okay.
I was holding on bail, so my family and I, we moved to Bridgewater, 7 miles away, just so I wouldn't run into those types of situations.
Uh-huh.
In 2013,
Okay.
Patty and I ran Bill Carpenter's campaign for mayor. And obviously Bill won in a landslide. He won by 55 votes.
Wow.
And then we ran Billy Carpenter's campaign again in 2015. We ran his campaign again in 2017. And then this year in 2019, we were running Billy's campaign again, along with people like Joseph Francois and others. And as we know, Billy died on July 3rd,
Yeah.
which segues, if you will, into the question, well, why are you running? I'm running, as I told the Brockton Enterprise when they asked me when I decided to run. I decided to run 8 days after Billy died.
Okay.
And I never thought that I would ever run for political office ever again.
And is it, if you don't, if you allow me to cut you off, it's just because Bill died and this is what triggered you, this is a tip point that pushing you to run? Or?
Correct. I never would have run against Bill Carpenter.
Okay.
I never would have run for office ever again. But the Enterprise, as I was starting to say, asked me, why are you running? And I used 5 words, because my best friend died.
Okay.
And I feel, as I would if you and I were friendly, I have a great sense of loyalty to family and to friends.
Yeah.
And I felt as though we couldn't find anyone to succeed Billy other than his haters and detractors and critics. So I decided 3 hours after the funeral service at Brockton High, in talking to my wife, I thought that it was something that I should do because I owed it to Bill to finish what Bill started. And so I decided that Friday, on Sunday, because again, we've been sleeping in Bridgewater for several years, right?
Okay.
Even though I work in Brockton every day,
Okay.
I
But,
left the trial court 7.5 years ago. So I have been in Brockton every day, practicing law at 157 Belmont Street, 7 days a week, by the
Okay.
way. My wife was elected president of the Brockton Charity Guild, which raises money. We raise money to feed the poor
okay.
in Brockton. Patty's on the board at the Brockton Hospital. And again, I practiced law there 7 days, and we were running Billy's campaigns, 13, 15, 17, and 19. So I'm in Brockton 7 days a week anyway.
Okay.
In 15, 16, 17 hours a day. I was just sleeping in Bridgewater. But if I was going to run for mayor, to finish the job that Bill started,
Okay.
I had to actually sleep in Bridgewater. So I registered, I signed a lease in Brockton the Sunday after I decided to run. The next day I registered to vote in Brockton, which you can do, which anybody can do, by the way.
Okay.
Anyone can do.
That's pretty good.
All you do, you register to vote. And if you're a registered voter, you can take out papers and run for city councilor.
Okay.
You can run for school committee. You can run for state representative. You can run for the state senate. You can run for mayor.
So it's something that allowed in
That's
Brockton.
allowed, no, it's allowed anywhere.
Anywhere. Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, I did what anybody has a right to do.
Okay.
I registered to vote, and I took out papers to run for mayor to finish the job that Bill started.
And when you mention, without cutting you off, when you mention about continue with the vision of Bill, like what Bill has started, and now how under your leadership. So, for instance, as like the issue people facing in Brockton, how under your leadership you will improve, let's say, the lives of people there, or either the education system, or the
I'll
other.
try to hit all of that with the time we have left. I've used this metaphor several times. Now, the camera can't pick up that door that is behind you, but I'm facing the door. You and I walked in tonight with Joseph Francois. We walked in through that door and sat here,
Yes.
right? What Billy thought himself as, and what I see myself as, is a high-paid doorman.
Okay.
To open that door for people and then close it, and then open it, keep it unlocked so people can walk through it. For many years, that door of opportunity was closed. It was closed. And Billy Carpenter opened up that door for people. It's a door of opportunity. When the door is closed, it's not a door of opportunity. When it's opened, it has a big O on it, opportunity. And Bill Carpenter, when he talked to me about running, it would have been January of 2013. He won that election in November of 2013. He was sworn into his first term in January of 2014. But when Bill came to see me, and as you know, I just left the trial court. I had just given up my judgeship. I left early and decided to go back into the practice of law in Brockton. Bill said he wanted to run for mayor. And I said, that's fine if you want to run, but how are you going to change the face of the city?
Okay.
You tell me how you're going to change the face of the city. Will you open up that door for people? And he said, yes. And I said, then I'm on board. Since that time, since he was sworn in January 2014, 46% of all hires in the city, outside of police and fire, because that's wedded with the civil service system, as you know, 46% of all hires have been people of color.
Okay.
56% of people appointed to boards and commissions. And by boards and commissions, I mean License Commission, Conservation Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, the ZBA.
Okay.
You name the commission, 56% of all appointments made since January 14 have been to people of color. I asked Billy, a young kid wanted to be, I'll mention his name, Wilson Cabral. He wanted to get into the academy.
Okay.
And Bill was only, probably shouldn't even say this, but Bill was going to, they were going to put 7 new kids into the police academy. And I said, Bill, please appoint this kid. He's wonderful. And he's from Fogo, but he's a wonderful kid, and he's going to make a great police officer. And Bill said, based on your representation on behalf of Wilson Cabral, let me see if we can reach him. And he had to reach a few people down to get Wilson, but now he's going into the academy.
Okay.
And the 2 or 3 people he had to reach through to get him are people of color. So Billy understood, in order to change the city, you've got to do it from the outside in and from the inside out.
Okay.
And being a doorman, opening that door of opportunity, in my opinion, is the best way to do it.
Okay.
And the most credible way of showing that you're going to represent every community, whether white or black, whether Irish or Haitian, whether Swedish or French, it doesn't make any difference. Everybody has a place at the table. Everyone. There's a seat for everyone.
Okay.
And it will be reflective. The city of Brockton will be reflective of the people who reside there.
For instance, under your leadership, let's say 100 days under your leadership, what people in Brockton should expect? Like, you're going to tackle, like, in terms of prioritize
Let
the
me
issue?
say this.
Yeah.
Bill died on July 3rd.
Okay.
Within 48 hours by July, because the holiday was the 4th, by the 5th and the 6th, private investors were already making inquiry into the city of Brockton, talking to people like the new CFO, Troy Clarkson, and other people, inquiring about the stability of the city.
Okay.
Is the city going to stay on the same track? Are we going to continue to move forward? Now, I think you know that this year alone, 2019, and I may be off a little, but do you know that close to $213 million of building applications have been applied for building in the city of Brockton? It's an amazing figure. Never been done before. Do you know that the last 2 years under Billy Carpenter, Brockton has experienced its largest period of economic expansion in terms of values going up, which means if property, just given the economic expansion, the price of your house went up. So in other words, you've got more equity if you decide to sell the house. Now granted, it also means If you want to move from Randolph, who we are now, to Brockton, you're going to be paying a little bit more.
More.
But that's a good thing,
Okay.
because property and value in Brockton was always undervalued. And Billy, given the economic expansion that he's responsible for, because he was pro-business, and he attracted state dollars from the governor and from the lieutenant governor, who have made about 11 trips to the city of Brockton to announce grants
Okay.
to the city, including that $23.5 million state building at the end of Belmont Street that runs perpendicular into Main Street, the old Ganley building. It's going to be a $23.5 million, $24 million state office building. You know that the state gave us $10 million for the new parking garage,
Okay.
and that's the second parking garage we have. The first one is on the corner of Crescent Street and Main Street. When I was in the House of Representatives, believe it or not, I was able to get a waiver, a federal waiver that we needed to get that parking garage built. So this is the second garage, but without it, the economic expansion around that parking garage that's now going up wouldn't be possible, because private investors would not have invested. So you've got a little catalyst that causes economic expansion. Then you have economic expansion, you get buildings, market rate housing, market rate, and then you've got the restaurants that follow.
Okay.
And then people follow. And then with people come more expansion. It's a tiger chasing its tail. It's a beautiful thing to watch it happen. And then that economic expansion radiates like the spokes on a bicycle. They radiate outwards
Okay.
to the neighborhoods. It allows us greater opportunity to have the revenue to rebuild playgrounds, to repave streets,
Okay.
to hire more firefighters, to hire more police officers, so we're safer. And now I want to get to this point. The number one issue when Bill Carpenter ran in 2013, the number one issue was crime.
Okay.
The most violent city, granted, is kind of a geographical anomaly, the city of Chelsea. It's only 1 square mile. 1 square mile. City of Chelsea was just ahead of Brockton as, in terms of statistically, the most violent city in the East Coast. Not New England
Okay.
and not Massachusetts, the East Coast. Statistically, that was so, using FBI statistics. We were right behind Chelsea. If you take Chelsea out of the equation, sadly, Brockton statistically was the most violent city in the East,
Okay.
and it was tough to admit.
And-
And we were.
And if you can just tell me, like, how, for instance, under your leadership, how you're going to tackle that?
Well, but I have to answer that by telling you this. When Billy was named, when he was appointed when he was elected
Yeah.
mayor, his first chief that he appointed was Bob Hayden, the former chief of police in Lawrence, the deputy superintendent of police in Boston, the undersecretary of public safety under my friend Paul Salucci, who was governor.
Okay.
And he hired Bob. Bob grew up in Dorchester, lived down in Hingham. He hired Bob. Bob was the finest appointment, mayoral appointment, anybody could have made. And what Bob did, it wasn't really that singularly different, but yet it was, because what he did is he took the sheriff and county law enforcement officials, along with local, the police department, the DA, state officials, the state police, and then every single federal agency. And he took them and he cobbled them together.
Okay.
He cobbled them together and made them the most dynamic crime-fighting model that anybody could ever see. And crime dropped dramatically. He took the bike patrols, the motorcycle police, put them back out on the street for the first time in over 33 years. He executed search warrants. I was a judge, as you know,
Yeah,
for
I know.
over 20 years. So I was pretty familiar with search warrants and signing them and finding probable cause and so on and so forth. They not only doubled, they tripled, and they quadrupled the number of search warrants that they executed, arresting the bad guys. They first made a list of the most violent, most dangerous people in the city, and they set out to get them, and they did. Violent crime and nonviolent crime came down. When I say nonviolent crime, I mean property crimes, like breaking and entering, malicious damage of property, that type of thing, property crimes.
Yeah.
But violent crime and nonviolent crime came down dramatically. And since World War II, the number one reason why people move out of a city, a town, is crime.
Correct. Okay.
Post-World War II, the number one reason why people and families with children move into a community is because of crime. The perception that it's controlled and that it's going down. So we took that so-called exodus of people and we reversed it. And now the middle class, they're coming back in, they're buying homes, they're painting their gutters, they're paying property taxes, they're sending kids to public schools, which gets to the public school thing. And how do we improve the public school system? Well, we improve it in a couple different ways. We improve it by attracting the middle class back into the city, number one.
Okay.
Number two is showing support for the public school system. And you do that by getting those families back into the city. And number three, you do what Billy Carpenter did.
Okay.
And what you do is, when you see an injustice, it's like that door being closed. It's an injustice. You open it, and people have access, right? That's justice. When we know that as a gateway city, like Fall River, New Bedford, Holyoke, Boston, Brockton, all the gateway cities, right? The large industrial cities, Lawrence, Lowell, in the large cities, you'll find that the state reimbursement for those children in gateway cities is far less than what it should be. So there was an issue raging for the last 7 or 8 years called justice and education. How can the gateway cities get justice?
Okay.
Why do we have, coming from a poorer community, or a less rich community, is it fair that public school education is paid for via the property tax? And in Brockton, as opposed to Lincoln, Mass, or Wayland, or Concord, or Duxbury, or Hingham, or Cohasset, why is it that the New Bedfords and Brocktons have to spend less per child to educate their children than Cohasset and Duxbury and Concord and Carlisle and Sudbury? Why?
Okay.
And it's not rape.
Why is that?
As a gateway city, my grandparents came from Ireland, right? And they were shoe workers. Same with my wife's grandparents. They were all shoe workers. But as a gateway city that takes, it was a great gateway city when my parents grew up. Pardon me, it was an immigrant community, and it is today. But that doesn't mean that they're not entitled to the same quality of education that you get in richer communities. So Billy Carpenter and other mayors joined force in a cause of action against the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, suing the Commonwealth for more money to support quality education in the public schools and gateway communities.
As you
And
mentioned,
already, go ahead.
as you
I
mentioned,
interrupted you.
sorry about that. As you mentioned about more money, because we had other candidates who came here, and one of the criticism about the education system in Brockton, they mentioned that there is more money. There is money, but it's just how the money allocated, and they mentioned the issue of the number of students per classroom, and teachers
true.
get fired and
That's
stuff like
exactly
that.
true.
It's like the money has been spent more in administrative versus
Well, I
to
mean,
reach out to
but that only works so far, because you can only cut so much in administration. By the way, I'm not suggesting that we don't or we do.
Okay.
Right? Because what you're talking about millions and millions of dollars. We're not talking about cutting out an assistant to an assistant administrator.
Okay.
We're talking about millions of dollars here. We're not talking about 4 or 5 administrators. We're talking about millions of dollars that Brockton is entitled to. We're talking about reducing class size,
Okay.
not only in the 1st grade, but in the 11th grade, in the 12th grade, and in the 7th grade. We're talking about making sure we keep junior high sports. And we're making sure, as I was just saying, when you asked that last question, we have to come up with a formula. The House and Senate did this year.
Okay.
I think it was $293 additional dollars, knowing that this equity in education legislation would be filed,
Mm-hmm.
and they would have to deal with it. So they looked at it, and the Speaker of the House and Senate President made the statement that we look at equity in education as a 5-year plan, and we have to come up with $1 billion,
Uh-huh.
$1.2 billion probably, to put public schools in gateway cities, put them in a position where they should have been 5 to 10 years ago. So they appropriated and sent to the governor, and the governor signed the bill, signed the budget into law, and I believe it was $293 million additional dollars on top of what they had already approved for public school education. They look at that, and they've promised that that's going to be the first year down payment
Okay.
toward education in gateway cities. That's the good news. The bad news is they never addressed how that formula would be adjusted so the gateway cities get that money. They
Okay.
never did that.
Mm-hmm.
So when is that going to be done? I'm assuming it's going to be done in the fall, or sometime soon, right? Because cities like Brockton, New Bedford, and Fall River,
Mm-hmm.
they want that money.
Okay.
And they particularly need it before the end of this fiscal year so that they can plan on what they're going to be doing in the following fiscal year. So we're talking about a lot of money. And Bill Carpenter addressed that issue appropriately by forcing the House and Senate, along with our legislative delegation, by the way, and the legislative delegations from each of from each of the sanctuaries, the gateway cities like Brockton. Billy Carpenter did the right thing, and the students in Brockton will be the main beneficiaries of that.
Okay.
Brockton has always been known, I want to say this,
Mm-hmm.
that Brockton has always been known as a city of great public school education. But there are some things that have to be worked out, and I think you're aware of it, as am I.
Mm-hmm.
The dropout rate was too high. In the last several years, that has come down,
Okay.
the dropout rate.
Yeah.
And also, the rate of dismissals
Mm-hmm.
for minority kids has been way too high. Way too high.
Okay.
Kids who are suspended, been way too high. And that's an issue that has to be addressed. And that's a real systemic problem. And I'm not chairman of the school committee yet.
Mm-hmm.
I will by virtue of being elected if I am elected. I may
Okay.
not get elected,
Okay.
but there's also a chance that I may.
Yeah.
If I do, I want to make sure that that issue is addressed, because it must be addressed. Because if a kid is suspended for whatever reason, then that's a burden that he has to carry for the rest of his life.
Yeah, definitely. Let me just remind the audience who's listening, you are listening to the Multicultural Television Network, and it's in the series of Dialogue with the Candidates. One more time, we have with us Mr. Mark Lawton, and he's been talking about his plan and who he is and agenda and issues in Brockton. So we know there are like a total of 7 candidates running for mayor in Brockton. So what makes you different? Besides
What
of
makes me different?
besides of the experience you have, we know you
I
were
think my connection to Brockton.
okay.
Nobody has the history, family history and individual history of connectedness to Brockton. When I was on the trial court, I helped found the Brockton Boys and Girls Club. And just my connection to Billy. I lived and breathed for the last 6 years everything that happened in Brockton through Bill. And I also know this, having been in the House of Representatives,
Okay.
having served in another member of another branch of state government, the trial court, I think I've got some experience that puts me in a position where if I have to go in and see the lieutenant governor, the governor, or the Speaker of the House or the Senate president, I have relationships. I know how the system works.
That's good.
I have a relationship with the legislative delegation that nobody else has who's running.
Is that an advantage
mayor.
for you? Do you consider that an advantage or?
Tremendous advantage.
Okay.
Tremendous advantage. And I think anybody listening would understand that it would be an advantage as opposed to a disadvantage. So I understand the system. I also believe I know my own skills.
Okay.
And I think I know how to make them work on behalf of the people that live in the city. And I also want to be a doorman. I want to make sure that door is open for everybody. And I'm not afraid to unlock it, and I'm not afraid to open it and not close it, but just continually open it for people. And it's something I want to do. I want to create opportunities for people, as well as for the city of Brockton. And if I didn't think that I could do the job, I wouldn't be running.
Okay.
And I wouldn't run if Billy hadn't died in any event. I was more than happy, as was my wife Patty, with the direction the city was going in, the economic expansion, the additional boots on the ground, crime coming down, property values going up, streets being repaved. And one example, we used to laugh about West Elm Street in Brockton. And it would take you 2 days to go from Warren Avenue, let's say, up to West Junior High because of the potholes and the breaks in the street and so on and so forth. So we had a celebration, a private celebration, when that was finally done.
Okay.
But those state monies were released because Billy was relentless with state government to get those monies released so that street could be repaved. And that was Billy. He was committed. Now, granted, he probably shouldn't have worked 19 hours a day, but he did. And did that contribute to his death on July 3rd?
Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows? I just know that Billy loved the city so much that he gave his life for it.
So as we getting close to the end of this dialogue, if you have the opportunity right now to make your case for, in front of people, Brockton, who are listening and who are on the social media listening to this conversation, what would be your case you make for the election?
And I'll sum up this way.
Okay.
I was an Irish kid who was born and brought up in Brockton, the son of East Side parents, the grandson of immigrants, the grandson of shoe workers, who grew up in the city, attended Brockton Public Schools, represented the city in the House of Representatives proudly, who served in the Massachusetts trial court along with my father. My father served in the trial court as well. We were the only father-son combination to serve at that particular time. I don't know if another father-son has ever served together in the trial court. Who helped found the Boys and Girls Club, whose wife raises money to feed the poor, who practices law in Brockton every day, who's the oldest of the 5 sons of Jim and Jean Lawton, who now, after having run Billy's campaigns in 4 straight elections, wants the opportunity to finish the job started by Bill Carpenter. I'd be proud to finish the job. And I'm a Brockton kid. People have said, yeah, you lived in Brockton, slept in Bridgewater for the last several years. Yeah, I have. Been in Brockton every day.
Okay.
And I took advantage of when Billy died 8 days later on the day of his funeral services. I decided that I would run, and I'm running, and I would be more than proud to represent the city of Brockton and the people who reside there in City Hall. And it's an exciting time. It's a great opportunity, not just for me if I should get elected mayor, but I think for everybody who resides in the city.
Okay.
Thanks.
So thank you, Mark, and thank you for everyone who's listening. It was the 2nd series, and we have with us Mark Lawton, who talked about his vision and his plan for the future of Brockton as he's running for mayor. Thank you and good evening. It was Ronald Bernard, the host for the series of Dialogue with the Candidate. Thank you. My name is Ronald Bernard, and I'm an expert in development. I am here at the MCTV for the 5th series of Dialogue with the Candidate. Dialogue with the Candidate, it's an opportunity we give to every candidate. They can come to the platform, share their vision, their political agenda, and how they're going to bring result in changing the lives of people they are willing to serve. So this evening, I am glad and honored to have with us Mr. Jimmy Pereira.
Yes, yes.
Good evening, Jimmy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome, and thank you for coming.
Of course.
So, Jimmy, as you're running for mayor for Brockton, and I believe it's not everybody probably know who is Jimmy, and this platform, this is what we're doing. We give opportunity for people who running for office to talk with the people who are going to vote. So how about you let the audience who are listening to you now talk about yourself. Who is Jimmy?
Certainly. So again, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Jimmy Pereira, running for mayor of Brockton. Actually, this is the second time doing so. We ran in 2017, came really close, 10% margin against the late Mayor Bill Carpenter, who passed away July 3rd of 2019. So again, we ran 2017, came really close. I was born and raised in the city of Brockton. I was an average skewed, meaning that I got in trouble. A single mother household. I'm a first generation American. My mom immigrated to America from Cape Verde on April 4th, 1987. But I, again, went through the system. I was an average skewed. I ended up in the foster care system in Springfield, Massachusetts. From there, I ended up going to a vocational school, Putnam Voc Tech, where I learned sheet metal and welding. But graduating from there, I wanted to pursue a higher education, so I went to Westfield State University, where I focused on geography and regional planning. I minored in ethnic and gender studies, so I could look at not just the built environment, but the socioeconomic disparities that coexist in these built environments as well. But upon graduating from Westfield State University, I wanted to work with the city of Springfield, kind of pay my dues, and there I was the healthy design coordinator, working on community and transportation projects as well. And then concluding that, I came to the city of Brockton, came back home. I now own a home there since 2015, and work at the Regional Planning Agency as a community and transportation planner. So I've been working with government for over half a decade, working with 17 communities, Brockton included, so from Avon all the way down to Plymouth, working with these communities to make progress. Basically, we're an extension of the state, and as a community and transportation planner, we are basically tasked with making sure that we look at projects and incentives that will help the greater good for the community that we service.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you.
And Jimmy, you mentioned that you ran before for mayor.
Right.
So why now you decide to run again?
Again, well, before the passing of the mayor, some of the issues still, existed in the city of Brockton. There was some progress made, but I see that we may all have different visions, but the objective is the same, is to make Brockton better. And that's why I wanted to make sure to continue this fight, because there are a lot of things that I still see that changes need to be made. And making sure that we know that in Brockton we have a strong spirit of never giving up, and make sure that we put up a good fight. So that's what we did in 2017, and that's what we're going to be doing again in 2019. Because again, it'd be a shame for me to let my city down, my community down. So I have to make sure I put my best foot forward and work hard for them.
Okay. Having said that, are you assuming that you continue with the vision of the past mayor or the actual mayor?
I think the same thing that I said and I was planning on doing in 2017 was not just to do what the mayor is doing, but to do better. I want to make sure that we continue to move the city forward, but do it progressively and do it by tenfold. So as a city planner, community transportation planner, I know that it's a multifaceted approach. And actually, before the mayor passed, we had conversations and dialogues about what the vision was or what the plan is and what I wanted to do for the city of Brockton. And some of the things he was able to look at and say, that is a great idea, but he was, there's still some things that he was of concern to him. It was, some things that he didn't understand completely, and some things that are new and innovative as well too, which through the conversations we communicated as to what it was. And that's what I want to do. I want to make sure that we look at the most innovative things, the best practices that are out there, and bring it to the city of Brockton, like bike share, which you'll see in Boston, but you don't see anything like that in Brockton. Improvements to the economic development corridor that we want to see in the city of Brockton as well. Infrastructure and the patterns in the city of Brockton, like two-way Main Street. Reality is, it's not just a two-way Main Street. You have to look at the whole fabric, the whole transportation network, and again with the homeless situation as well too. There were some things that the late Mayor Carpenter did that I didn't encourage or I didn't like, but it's also making sure that there's a follow-up. What is the solution to the homeless situation? What is the solution to the opioid epidemic problem? What is the solution to the economic development or lack of economic development in the city of Brockton? So those are things that we want to improve and continue to move forward with.
Okay, thank you. And I believe it's all the candidate. When you're talking, guys, about what people facing and what you plan to do to change, to improve the circumstances in people's life, you all have, the same passion and ambition. So, what makes you different from the other candidates,
Certainly.
like other people's running, and
Right.
you all want to do the,
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Question. I feel what sets me apart is that I am more so. I probably have the most, and it's not to sound arrogant or anything like that, but it's just know that I have the different experiences that a lot of the candidates don't have. And growing in the community, being in the community of Brockton, born and raised, I lived on a lot of different streets in the city of Brockton, but never on the, unfortunately, I didn't make enough money to live on the west side. So, but the streets that I grew up on, Newberry Street, Tremont Street, in the Crescent Court homing projects, the projects there, Roosevelt Heights as well, and I own a home on North Warren Avenue. I didn't just stay in Brockton also. I went to Springfield against my will, but because of the experience that I had there, I learned a lot there, but I came back to the city of Brockton, also going to Westfield State University. A lot of different environments that I've been in, and I've learned to adapt in those environments and knowing to work with the people that come from all those environments as well. So whether you're in the urban community, the suburban, or the rural community, I've been in those I would say ecosystems or those environments where things are different and relationships are different, they seem different. But also looking at the different classes as well too. So low income, middle income, upper income. I've been able to sit in rooms with everyone from all different backgrounds. Again, and having experience with the youth, also the at-risk youth, and making sure that we work with the foster care system. Being from a diverse community, also being able to make sure that I don't just learn about my own culture, but learn about the cultures of others. And we've been able to do that. I've been able to do that. Studied French 1 and 2 in high school, studied Arabic in college, Spanish as well too in high school. So making sure that even if I don't have a 100% grasp on the cultures of other people, is to make sure you at least get some type of understanding so that you can continue to learn about people from other communities. And I think that's what sets me apart from the other candidates, knowing that I have an array of experiences and making sure that it's not just professional, but it's the academic and it's the personal experience that we highlight as well.
Okay. I would like to remind the viewers that you are listening to MCTV Multicultural Television Network, and we're hosting the show called Dialogue with the Candidate. It's a series where the candidate, they come and share the vision, share the plan with the public. So when people, they will go to the poll to do their civic duty, they will do it in a informed way. So having said that, how does Brockton gonna look like under your leadership? Let's say 100 days under your leadership. What should people from Brockton should expect?
So you should definitely expect ease of access to information. There's a lot of things that we want to do. I know, especially working with municipalities, is you look at the short term, midterm, and long term, or you look at the low hanging fruits. What are the closest things that are to the ground that you could easily go and fix and get accomplished? So we want to start looking at the pavement management system and the way that we work with DPW, Department of Public Works, engineering, the whole facet. Everyone in City Hall, we want to see how things function We want to make sure that we provide an audit as well to get a better understanding of where the money is. We are going to concentrate on the budget as well. But again, making sure that we focus on the low-hanging fruits, like the homeless situation. We didn't make sure that we prioritize how we're going to work with not just those in Brockton, but those neighboring Brockton as well, because we know that a lot of the homeless population aren't originally from Brockton. They're coming from different areas, because we understand a lot of issues arise, not just in urban settings, but in suburban and rural settings as well. But it's making sure that we have a dialogue, we have a conversation with not just the regional partners, but the state delegation as well. So we're going to increase conversations about homeless and how to bring solutions to that. We're also going to look at making sure we prioritize economic development in the city of Brockton and really focus with the MassDOT and the Regional Planning Agency on what are the next steps for two-way Main Street, and what are we looking at as far as the fabric of the neighborhood. Also working with Governor Baker and making sure that we look at the Opportunity Zones program, the initiative that is coming down the pipeline as well. We want to make sure that we have access to information on initiatives such as that, and also making sure that we are in line and ready to work with our state and regional partners when it comes to making sure we have funding for the city of Brockton. So, and also making sure we prioritize education funding. The Fund Our Future program is something that we want to prioritize and make sure we advocate for. And again, making sure that we enter the lists of communities that are going to be fighting the state through the legal actions for a better educational funding formula as well.
Okay. If we try to put in priorities, like we try to prioritize the issue people in Brockton they are facing, how would you prioritize? Like, what would be number one if we go number two? And
right. So when you look at issues the city faces, there never really is who's first in line.
Okay.
There's always, again, it's a multifaceted approach, and that's why I look at the conglomerate approach, where you have organizations and departments from all sectors come to the table, all the stakeholders, and we find out where is the overlap, what are you working on, and what am I working on, and how we may be able to help each other and be able to communicate better. So, but I could tell you the top issues that we see in the city of Brockton is definitely the homeless situation, the opioid epidemic, traffic and congestion, and potholes as well, and the lack of economic development, the vacant houses also, and making sure that we get more revenue into the city of Brockton, again, with economic development. And those are all the things that we want to focus on, and making sure, again, that we look at the short-term, long-term, and mid-term, of course, effects and solutions that accompany these issues.
okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And for instance, in this race you've been, and in September, it's where people they're gonna decide who's gonna go for the next
Right.
round. So, what are the challenges that you anticipate, like as a mayor, you'll be facing in order to produce results?
Right. Issues that I see is really just making sure that people understand what the goals are, and my job is to articulate that to the city council. I feel that the mayor's office is similar to, and the city council is basically the mayor's the CEO of the city, is the executive director. The city council is the board of directors. So you have a group that you have to come and explain what is going on in the city or the corporation, and what it is that you plan on doing, and where they can help. So I want to make sure that we have a sound relationship with the city council, and that they see the vision also and the best practices, and provide information to the city council in a timely manner and a transparent manner as well. And I think, especially living and working and growing up in a diverse community, is making sure that all community members know what's going on, and making sure that we follow federal guidelines like Title VI, which says that if you have a population of 1,000 or more, you need to make sure that you're providing translation services and interpreter services to these community members who request it as well. But I don't just want to wait for someone to request it. I want to make sure that we provide information at the onset to say, hey, this is what's going on, this is how you get involved, and if you have any more questions, please come to us, or we will most certainly be happy to come to you as well, because we find that it's more important to go to where people are, go to their comfort zones, and make sure you work and engage with them. And there those issues that we think will be there, we always want to make sure that we mitigate and plan ahead for it. So we anticipate, what those issues are, and that's why I'm already ready to be able to answer, what the solutions should be for those issues that I think we will be facing, God willing, if we get into office. So, but most certainly, it's about making sure you plan ahead and you work with the partners and stakeholders at the table.
Okay. As now we are about at the end of this dialogue, and it is a question that I ask all the candidates at the end. It's like, when I say a question, let's me rephrase it. Say it's an opportunity I give to every candidate to make their case for the audience that is listening to you now. So why they would vote, for you. Make your case for the audience who are listening.
Certainly. Thank you for this opportunity.
You're
and
welcome.
If I may state my case to the audience, and especially to the Brockton voters, for me it's about making sure that you know that I am dedicated to the job. I am a community transportation planner, but more so a public servant. I have been working with Brockton and the neighboring communities for over half a decade, and also working with the state and federal delegation as well. So the FHWA and FTA, Federal Transit Authority, and Federal Highway Administration as well. And being familiar with the projects that are going to be coming down the pipeline and what is already in place as well. I believe we need a spokesperson that's going to be relative to the community members, that's going to be adaptive and making sure that they actually go out to the community and engage community members. And that's something that I have been doing for, again, ever since even before I got out of college. And also working with Department of Youth Services. We have a big situation in the city of Brockton, not just youth homelessness, but youth substance abuse as well. And we want to make sure we provide more opportunities for that. I'm raising 2 children in the city of Brockton. I myself grew up in the city of Brockton. I've seen the good, I've seen the bad, I've seen the ugly, and a lot of that I don't want my children or your children to see growing up in the city of Brockton. So make sure you like someone that's going to work hard, that is dedicated, and is going to be relentless when it comes to making sure that we put our best foot forward and work hard for the city of Brockton. Thank you for your time, and I hope you get out to vote September 17th. If you need more information, please visit the website, www.jimmyforbrockton.com, and also on Facebook and other social media platforms as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy, and thank you for everyone who've been listening to this 5th edition of Dialogue with the candidate. And we have Jimmy Pereira, who's running for mayor in Brockton. So thank you, Jimmy, for accepting our offer to come here to talk. And thank you, the audience, for listening to us. Good evening.